All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So in today's episode, I interview recent graduate of Summit Strength, Andrea, who has recently completed her first multi-day adventure on the Cape to Cape walk in Western Australia. Now, this is an awesome episode because we go into a little bit of detail around her training, her preparation for this first big multi-day hike that she set herself, some of the challenges she faced, some of the insights she saw, and also her time on the trail. So this is a fantastic episode for anyone who may be considering their first multi-day adventure, maybe in the process and the training leading up to that, or anyone who's just interested in hearing a little bit about the Cape to Cape experience. So with that being said, I really hope you enjoy today's episode and let's get into it. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare, and conquer your upcoming hike, trek, or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude, and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable, and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. All right. Hello, Andrea. A big welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rowan. Thank you. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because as we were sort of chatting about just before we hopped on, I think your story and as you said, like your story, your situation, a little bit unique in regards to some other people who may be considering big hiking trips or whatever it may be. And I think this is going to be such a valuable and such an inspirational episode for a lot of people. So I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I guess to kick things off and just dive right into things, do you just want to start us off with who you are, where you're from, what you do, and what is your background in hiking?
All right. Well, I'm originally from Melbourne born and bred, but I moved to regional Victoria, beautiful area of Victoria, Gippsland, around 12 years ago. Live on a couple of acres here, beautiful place, beautiful area in the world. I work in an executive role and have done for many years, but in recent years have stepped back into more of a part-time role. So that kind of gave me the space and time to think about some of the other things that I might like to do. Probably one of the things is I've got absolutely no background in hiking. Really what I have done in the past has been focused around swimming. So I've been an open water swimmer. I've done a couple of pretty cool swims, including the English Channel as part of a team. Rottnest, I've done a couple of swims over in WA to Rottnest, and also done the famous Alcatraz swim in the US. So, from a hiking/walking point of view, really all I've ever really done is kind of general walking, your local neighbourhood walking, and the occasional tourist track, I would say. Never really anything with anything serious, even thinking about carrying a day pack with, water and nutrition.
So coming off the back of that then, when you first started working with Summit Strength, what was the specific goal that you were training for?
So we had, I've spent quite a bit of time in WA and have got extended family in WA and also extended family through Victoria. And one of my nieces suggested that potentially we could walk the Cape to Cape walk in WA. So the Cape to Cape walk is a different length depending on who you speak to, but around 130 kilometres from Cape Naturalist to Cape Leeuwin, north to south. And it's an amazing coastline there. So the original plan was that it was going to be a family group that was going to do this Cape to Cape walk. And I thought it would be a great idea to sign up for a 7-day walk. Really what happened is once we decided on the walk and decided on the dates we were going and the tour group that we were going with, really the rest of the family dropped off. So in the end, it was just myself and my sister-in-law, who lives over in WA, who decided to take it on. And at that point, really, I was just swimming and, doing some local neighbourhood walks. And I started to do some research about the track over in WA. And I thought, haven't really done much hiking or any multi-day walks before. Maybe I should think about doing some training for it. And that's when I did a little bit of research and found Summit Strength, and had a chat to you, Rowan, and decided that would be the way to go, that I probably needed to do some work to get physically ready for the walk.
So then tell us a little bit about your training that you did through Summit Strength. You signed up, had this goal in mind, you came on board. What did your program and your training actually look like?
So the program was really built on based around what I had available to me and the time that I had available. So eventually what it looked like was a couple of recovery and mobility sessions each week. There were 2 strength sessions each week, and then also starting to bring in some of the walking, a little bit different from the daily walking I've been doing, including some loaded pack walks, some tempo walks, and also a longer pack walk each week. One of the other things that got added later on as I moved closer to the start date was some stair work as well, some stair and some hill work, which was pretty challenging. So look, I really liked the program, and I found it. I don't want to say it was easy, but I found it worked in with the time that I had available, and it worked in with the equipment that I had available as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know what you mean about in a sense of, don't want to say easy, but it's not all this and that. And that's, very much intentional in the sense of finding that nice little moderate ground where we're not throwing you in the deep end and absolutely smashing you, which is so common in the fitness industry, but, it's not particularly needed. But obviously, getting just at that right level where we can get enough progress, get enough gains, and move everything forward. So I guess in amongst all of that, was there anything in there that was a little bit different that maybe you hadn't done before, maybe you hadn't considered before, or anything like that?
To be honest, Rowan, it was completely different from anything I've ever done before the program, because mainly my focus in the past has been a combination of gym, personal training in a gym, and walking, and obviously a big focus on swimming. So a lot of focus around preparing for those big open water swims, including, getting used to the cold water. I haven't really ever done anything online before, so this was, that was certainly one of my considerations when I decided to do it, was whether that online aspect was going to work for me. So that was quite different, but I actually really enjoyed that. I found it was still very personalised. And the trainer that you matched me with was also an Andrea, and also has some background in open water swimming, is a swimmer, and I really enjoyed working with her. So it was, I guess some of the similarities were that there were training blocks, and there were was set up in sections, so you would have week 1 to 4, and then there would be a change for the next section. But that felt really well planned and really well managed through the app, and it was easy for me to then be able to schedule it. So that, I knew there were a certain number of sessions I needed to do each week, but I could choose what days I did what sessions on to work in with other things that were happening in my life, which I liked. None of it felt particularly hard to do. I wouldn't say it was easy, but none of it felt particularly hard to do. Sometimes I think there was more of a challenge in learning a different type of exercise to what I'd done before. So I did find that the types of exercises were different from what I'd typically done in the gym before. And I was really surprised at how quickly I started to feel the change in my body physically. So I was really surprised at how quickly I started to feel stronger and how I could feel, I could feel different parts of, particularly my legs, particularly feel my muscles changing and becoming stronger. And I think the other thing, I've been very focused on the physical side of it, which is, essentially what I needed to do. But I also did take up the option to talk to Kyle, the nutritionist, and that was extraordinarily valuable because one of the things I was a bit challenged by was on the longer walks, I was having some issues with energy. And the conversation I had with Kyle really helped understand what I needed to do to actually support my body to be able to do those longer walks. I did a lot of testing beforehand, and that made an enormous difference on the track. There are actually days on the track where I think I probably would have struggled more than I did without some of those things that I'd put in place to help support as a result of the discussion with Kyle.
And for context there for the listeners, so for our programs, for the online summit program, which is our signature program, which Andrea was working with us, most people get included a consultation with a dietitian who specialises in hikers, who Kyle is, and he's been on this podcast a few times because we know the training and physical preparation so important, but the nutrition goes hand in hand as well. So we make sure we get that specialist advice there. So just for context, So, Andrea, I think we trained together for it was about 14 weeks leading into your adventure, and as we all know, these types of training processes they're never linear. There's always ups, there's always downs. So, so I'm curious, through your 14 weeks, were there any particular roadblocks or things that came up along the way, and if so, how did you go about overcoming them?
I guess there were most of them, I would say I had, a couple of things happen, but most of them were more to do with physical limitations for me than anything else. So I do have a long, I guess a chronic left knee issue. And what happened, and that was certainly built into the program and considered as part of the program, and one of the key areas where I needed to make sure I built strength. So that did make some of the exercises more challenging. But really what happened is I just managed that with Andrea, who was my trainer, and she would alter the exercises so that we were getting a similar impact or effect without the issue that the original exercise might have caused, which is typically pain more than anything else. The other thing I had, which was unexpected, but it was great to be doing loaded pack walks as part of the program, was that I did actually have some issues with my neck from carrying a pack. So that was really sorted with a combination of things. So I had some osteopathic treatment, which helped get it all back into place, and made some alterations to the program around just dropping back the weight in that loaded pack for a little bit longer, so just taking a bit longer to build it up, and then also checking the setup of my pack and just making sure that the weight was all being carried where it needed to be and that it wasn't putting undue pressure through my neck. I think one of the things it did teach me, though, I had grand plans that there was quite a lot I was going to carry in my day pack each day, and I actually refined that quite a lot. So I carried less than I had expected to. I think originally I suggested that I was going to carry around 10 kilos in the pack, but really what I ended up with was around 6 kilos that I carried each day. And I think that was a much better option. And I think one of the things is if I hadn't done a training program like I did with Summit, I'm not sure I would have understood how much focus you needed to have on making sure you did build up for carrying a pack and understand what you needed to do, because that could have very easily undone the entire track if I hadn't done that work beforehand and knew what I needed to do to manage it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's such an important point. So yeah, well, so there we go. So we've built up the training. We've worked through all of that, gotten you to your end date. Step out on the trail. Talk to us. How did the trail go? Give us the rundown.
All right. Well, the trail was, look, I'm very privileged to have had the experience. It really is a, a beautiful coastline, really spectacular. I would say that it was more physically and mentally challenging than I expected. Probably the biggest issue I had was that I actually became unwell on the first day. So I believe that that's not something that's particularly uncommon sometimes. So I got quite a nasty cold on the first day. So that did, that was a bit challenging. And I guess that's when the fact that you've done the training does start to kick in, because you've done the training and that helps you get through feeling, I guess, less physically well than you'd hoped to go. You'd hoped to go into the trail. One of the look, it's an amazing track. I mean, I almost can't recommend it highly enough. One of the things that I did do, a lot of people who do the track 7 days will do it carrying a full pack, and there are actually campgrounds along the trail that people can stay at. That's not the choice that I made or that we made. We actually went with a company called Cape to Cape Explorer Tours, and we stayed off track. So we actually had a guide with us each day, and there was a theme for each day. And because of the type of coastline it is, that was really fantastic as well. So, one day we talked about the marine environment, another day was geology, we talked about flora another day, fauna another day. We had a couple of days focused on, one day was around Indigenous history of the area and one around European history of the area. So as well as walking a beautiful coastline, we were, very privileged to be able to receive a lot of information about, what we were seeing along the way. We had some pretty spectacular experiences. We saw a huge amount of dolphins, an incredible amount of dolphins, including one day when we actually saw dolphins surfing in the waves off the shore, which was incredible. Saw a few snakes. Most of them just, went on their own merry way. We just kind of stood back and let them decide which way they wanted to move and move off the track. We were incredibly lucky with the weather. The weather was amazing, perfect weather. We didn't have any rain. It wasn't particularly cold. It was kind of 18 to 22 degrees every day. It wasn't particularly, wasn't too hot either. So yeah, look, it was really fantastic. I walked with my sister-in-law, and it was also her, it's the first time she's done anything like this, but, she's a very disciplined person, very physically strong and fit, and she was really an incredible support to me. I think one of the things that I do like is I do like the team aspect of anything I do, really, physically. I think, I'm not really into being there by myself and doing it by myself. I like to share the experience with other people. And it was an amazing shared experience with, a group of people who were strangers at the beginning of the week, but we all, knew a bit about each other by the end of the week. And yeah, I think one of the things that I found really incredible was that I didn't feel any soreness at all in the week while I was walking the track. I certainly felt fatigue and some muscle fatigue, but I never really felt muscle soreness, which I think shows how well prepared I was physically. One of the things that I hadn't really thought about beforehand was the impact of 7 days of walking and the rhythm and flow that you need to set yourself up to do that each day. So, each day you kind of get up and you need to have a plan to make sure you've got everything ready to take with you on the track, because once you're out there, there's no recourse if you don't have something with you that you need. And I found that quite meditative. So I am a person who tends to have a lot going on in my brain at any one point in time. And I felt like needing to focus on what was happening each day. Everything was about getting up, getting ready to walking the track, coming back, doing the, recovery and mobility, making sure, we were fueling ourselves, making sure we were getting good sleep, and then getting up again the next day to do it. So I really liked that. I kind of liked that everything for the week became about walking the track, and I couldn't think about anything else, and I didn't need to worry about anything else external to what I was doing, other than, getting up every day and enjoying what I was doing.
Amazing. Yeah. So many special points there. And I think, for me, listening to that, a lot of things you mentioned, it's just got me in like memory city of just like how special those kind of feelings are. So, yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. So obviously you had that little hiccup in the first day of picking up the cold, and not much fun there.
No.
I guess, on top of that, like, what were the other sort of any other major challenges you faced on the trail? Anything that sort of popped up while you were there?
I think, one of the things I talked about was that it was more physically and mentally challenging than I expected. So, I think after the second or third day, I really had a lot of doubts about my ability to be able to do it, to be able to finish the week. And, probably part of that was driven by the fact that I was unwell, but part of it was also that I had thought about how the mental challenges that walking for 7 days in a row might bring me, and I thought I was very well prepared for the mental challenges. And one of the reasons I thought I was very prepared for the mental challenges is because we do a lot of work for that for open water swimming, and open water swimming is definitely something where, as long as you're physically ready to do a swim, whether it's a long swim or a short swim, mentally it's about whether you can get yourself through that swim or not. So I knew how important that piece was. But on the second or third day, I really doubted my ability to be able to do it. And I think there were a variety of things that impacted that. But my sister-in-law was pretty amazing. She talked me through not thinking about getting to the end of the 7 days, but just thinking about what was before me on the next day, what was before us on the next day. And one of the things that we had with us was we had the Cape to Cape track actually has a guidebook that's been written by some people who have walked the track for years and years and years, and big proponents of helping keep the track in good shape for walking. And one of the things that we started doing, which I think was really valuable, was each night, once we had eaten and we'd done our recovery and mobility, we would sit down with a cup of tea and we would have a look at what the next day looked like. So we would look at how many kilometres it was. We would read about what the terrain was like. We would think about what we needed to pack, if there was anything different that we needed to bring with us. And then we would break the day down into sections, and then we only needed to think about each section. So we would get up in the morning and we would do the sections that we talked about the night before, and then we would set ourselves up that night for the next day. And that made a real difference to me, because it stopped me overthinking the challenges that I thought I was going to have that weren't even necessarily there yet. It was more about just that on the second or third day, I was like, wow, I've still got 4 days of this to do. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And it didn't take into consideration some of the things like, you do get into the rhythm of the walking and you do start to build your trail legs, as you were talking about beforehand, Rowan. So, I think that was really that was really important. And I think any future track that I did, that is one of the things that I would think about preparing myself beforehand, so that I was actually breaking it down into smaller sections and understanding what I needed to do each day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an interesting topic, and it's so cool that you had the guidebook there, and or had the book there, and you could explore that, take that time, and sit down with a tea and just go over it and plan for the next day. Yeah, I love that. So then talk us through, like, obviously you've gone through this big adventure, first time for something like this. At the end of the hike, like at the very end, as you crossed that finish, stepped off the trail, how did you feel? Like, what was going through your head? And yeah, did you do anything to sort of celebrate and the finish of it all?
Yeah, so I mean, I would have to say that the end of the hike was, to be honest, I was pretty happy that I'd made it to the second lighthouse, Rowan. The last couple of days of the track, there are long sand sections, so they were challenging and long days. So I would say that I felt tired. I couldn't wait to take my boots off. I think I had actually packed my thongs in my pack so that when we got to the end, I could take my boots off and put my thongs on just to let my feet breathe again for a bit. I did have a couple of blisters that I was managing. But we were pretty excited. We were pretty happy as a group to be finished. I would say that I felt pretty tired, but I was really proud of myself for finishing. I was really, I was really delighted with the group that I'd done it with, and I was really thankful for how supportive they'd been of me through the track as well. Certainly there were people there who were, I guess physically and mentally perhaps more prepared for the track, or I guess physically and used to walking, used to hiking, I guess. So they were more comfortable with what to expect, and a lot of them were very supportive and encouraging of me across those 7 days. So it was nice to be able to finish with a group where you felt well supported. We did have a celebratory dinner that night, so we went back to the accommodation where we were staying, and the company we were with, Cape to Cape Explorer Tours, had put together a package of a little video package of photos and things that had happened over the 7 days, and they played that for us, which was lovely. And then, we all got a certificate that said that we had completed the 7-day walk, the Cape to Cape. So that was pretty cool, and it was nice to be able to celebrate with the group that we'd walked with. What I would also say is that I was pretty tired. We didn't stay up late celebrating, I must admit. And the next day I really travelled home. So I was kind of 12 hours door to door to get home. And the day after that, I pretty much spent the day on the couch. But then on the third day, when I got up, and I guess I thought I might still be tired, I didn't feel tired. Really, I had recovered already. Apart from a couple of niggling blisters on the feet, I had really, I had recovered quite well, and I felt really strong. Like, I felt incredibly strong, both physically and mentally. And I think that's about, walking into, spending 7 days walking means you do walk yourself into a level of higher strength and fitness. And, mentally, that I had overcome some of those doubts that I had about myself as we went through the week. And I had, I had finished it. I did keep going. And a lot of that was about the support and the encouragement that I got from people around me. But also I still had to do the work to walk, and I did. And, there were opportunities to drop out if I'd wanted to, but I didn't want to. I was really keen to finish, to be able to say that I'd done the whole 7 days.
So looking towards the future now, like with this big trip behind you and successfully completed, and hopefully a really really positive memory. What's the plan of attack for the hiking moving forward? Is this something you're looking at continuing? Any other ventures in your sights? Talk me through on that.
Yes, I think so. Look, I thought that I might be one and done, but I actually really loved it, and I would like to do some more. And I really think I do like the multi-day hike format. potentially, potentially not 7 days. I mean, I think probably 4 or 5 days might be the sweet point for me. Um, and there are so many amazing walks that we can do in Australia, and a couple that I've had a look at. Obviously, in Tasmania, a lot of people talk about the Three Capes walk, so that would be something that I think I would look at. Um, the company that we did the Cape to Cape with also do a 6 day tour on part of the Bibbulmun track, which is further south of Margaret River, where we did the Cape to Cape. I'd really like to go back and do that with them. And that's a little bit less walking. I think it's 60 or 65 kilometres, and you're really walking for 4 of those days. But that is a beautiful area down there as well. So I think that is something I would like to do potentially in April next year. And then I guess the other thing is there's some amazing walks in New Zealand and in Europe, and I'd really like to start looking at some of them. So, potentially I'll look at doing a couple of multi-day hikes each year, maybe, one in Australia and one in overseas, or, maybe an overseas one every second year, something like that. So I haven't really planned it all out yet, but I would think the next one I would do is likely to be in April next year in WA, with that section of the Bibbulmun track, which I think the Bibbulmun track is 1,000 kilometres or something. It's a big track, so I'm certainly not looking at doing the whole track, just a section of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah, definitely some amazing options there. So I guess if anyone listening to this who might be another Aussie, might be sort of considering, the Cape to Cape, maybe is inspired by today, or it's been something they've been thinking about for a while, or whatever it may be. Is there any specific advice you would give them if they were considering this adventure?
Look, I think I would say absolutely do. I mean, I would highly recommend it to anyone. I think it's an amazing trail to do. Um, one of the things I haven't really talked about, I have talked about how beautiful the coastline is, but it's also a very special place. It's very significant to the traditional owners, the Wadandi people, the saltwater people, and they live by 6 seasons rather than 4 seasons over there. And we were lucky enough to meet one of the local elders and have a welcome to country on our second day on the track, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it's really just a beautiful, it's just a spectacular corner of the world. I think we're really lucky that we have easy access to it. Very lucky that we have easy access to it. The other thing that I would say is that although it is a moderate trail, there are sections that are quite challenging. So they talk about, a couple of areas where there are rock scrambles. They're pretty significant rock scrambles, I would say. And also there are a couple of days where there are really long beach sections, and the beach sections there are really soft sand because of the nature of the way the water moves there. Actually, the sand all gets pulled off the beach and then pushed back onto the beach. So there's no hard sections. You can't really find a hard section to walk on. It is soft sand, and there are a couple of days at the end where you've got 6 or 7 kilometres on the sand. So that's definitely something for people to prepare themselves both physically and mentally.
And then I feel like we've covered some really, really good stuff today, and I think this is going to be such a good listen for so many people out there. I guess before we kind of wrap things up, is there anything else that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover, or anything, any other bits and pieces maybe you'd like to add before we finish this episode today?
I don't think so. I think we've probably covered most of most of the key things that I felt were really important about both the training program and the actual walk. But look, I mean, without a doubt, if I hadn't done the program that I did with Summit, I don't think I would have been able to achieve it. And I don't know that I realised that as I was going through the process. I did understand that I was physically unprepared for such a long walk. And one of the process that I went through was I tried to understand what I would need to put together in order to be able to do it effectively. And one of my key things, I guess, was I wanted to be able to enjoy the walk. I didn't want to be so struggling through each day physically challenged that I wasn't able to enjoy the beautiful country around me. And, while I think probably I could have been a little more physically prepared, and that was definitely on me, the preparation that I did absolutely meant that I was able to achieve it. Like, I just would not have been able to do it without that. I can't really envisage. It was such a different program to anything I've done before, and the focus on the areas to build my leg strength and calf strength and manage my knees and my back just made all the difference, I think. So, and Andrea was fantastic. Kudos to her. She was a great coach, and she was really fantastic in managing the changes that we needed to make as we went through the program. And I guess thanks to you too, Rowan, because it's your brainchild, isn't it? This type of program, and I couldn't recommend it more highly. To be honest, I think it is absolutely the thing that physically enabled me to get through to be able to achieve the track.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Andrea, thank you so, so, so much for coming on today and sharing all of this because I think, this is going to be, a really, really valuable episode. And I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy just hearing your story here. So thank you so much for coming on. Really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing how all the adventure planning in the future all plays out for you.
Great. Thank you, Rowan.
All right, there we go, guys. So I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you got some insight, some inspiration, and I really do hope some people, got some good value out of this one. So just to wrap things up, if you were interested in just hearing a little bit more and learning a little bit more about the hike that Andrea did, if you just go down below into the show notes of the episode, I'll drop a couple of links to the company that Andrea used. On top of that, if you were interested in learning a little bit more about training for your adventures, if you had a bigger multi-day hike like this coming up, if you struggle with some of the struggles that Andrea mentioned on the call, or anything like that, what I'd like you to do is go to summitstrength.com.au/online, and you can learn a little bit more about our training for hiking, online personal training for hiking programs there. And I'll leave a link for that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Have a lovely day, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye.